Good afternoon, everyone. I just have two real quick announcements. I just wanted to shout out Haynes Middle School. They will be hosting their Black History Month program at 5:30 on this Thursday in the cafeteria. And so if you're in the area, please join them for their Black History Month program. And the other announcement is just following up on our last board meeting. I made an announcement about the Alumni Association at Whites Creek High School. They have elected a new president. Ms. Kathy Bowers is the newly elected president of the Whites Creek Alumni Association. And so for all the Cobras out there that are looking to get re-engaged with Whites Creek High School, please reach out to Ms. Bowers and get connected with the Alumni Association. And then last but not least, on my soapbox, if you are not engaged in your child's PTO or PTA, please do so. Find out when and where the meetings are and join them and support your child's school in that way at a minimum. Thank you all.
Thank you, District 2. District 3. District 5.
No announcements here, thank you.
District 6.
Just a couple of announcements. As a reminder, we are entering Read Across America Week in Metro schools, and I will be going to a couple of my elementary schools. Cane Ridge Elementary and Smith Springs Elementary will be on my list to embark on some quality time with the students to read to the student population. I'm super excited about that. So if you have not already been invited, please volunteer. It is probably the best maybe hour that you will spend in any school during Read Across America Week. And also, I want to just give a quick shout out and a big old thank you to Jelly Roll and his entire team for participating in a assembly at Antioch High School with the students today. It was extremely well received, and the students walked away feeling pretty doggone good. And let me just say that Jelly is moving up my list of favorite people in the whole wide world. He is giving back and loving on our kids, and I appreciate that. So, thank you.
District 7.
No announcements.
District 8. District 9.
Yes, Lawson Baseball is hosting a Mardi Gras night on March 4th, which is also their first home game of the season. The first 50 fans who come will receive a special Mardi Gras Lawson Cup and matching beads. Also, wanted to just kind of give a shout out to, I think it was the Kingston Springs Police Department, who ended up finding the cutting. There was a mower and something else that had been stolen from the Lawson High School baseball team that they used to take care of their fields. And they shared that information on social media along with a picture of the car that took it. And we were able to get it recovered really quickly. So I just want to say thank you for everybody who participated in that, who shared that information so that we could get it back so that our kids won't be detrimentally hurt by somebody deciding to come in and steal something. So thank you very much for everybody who was instrumental in getting that back to our baseball team. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then announcements for District 4. Excited to participate in McGavick High School Student Union Showcase tomorrow at 1 o'clock in honor of Black History Month. And then also want to wish everyone Ramadan Mubarak. The month of Ramadan is coming up at the end of this week. So students and staff across MNPS who are participating in the month of fasting for those 29 or 30 days, I wish you all the best and wish you happy holidays. That concludes our announcements for today.
All right, so now we're going to honor a couple of our very own special groups of students who have given our district a beautiful song in 2 languages. First is a group that originally wrote and recorded our Every Student Known anthem during a 4-day songwriting camp last year. They poured their hearts and souls into creating an anthem that reflects what it means to them to be part of a district where every student is known. It's an amazing song, and as many of you already know, but I have to tell you, while I had very high hopes for this song, I had no idea at the time of how far it would ultimately go. But 2 weekends ago, we all found ourselves at the Mid-South Emmy Awards with 2 nominations for Every Student Known, and then we found ourselves hearing our names called and going up on stage. That's right. Every Student Known won the Emmy for Documentary Cultural for Every Student Known, the creation of an anthem. So as you all know, this is a very moving, inspiring 9-minute film made by the Moving Picture Boys about that 4-day camp last June. I hope everyone in here and watching has already checked it out. So we're really excited about this Emmy. So tonight we're honoring our students and music educators for this amazing achievement. I'm going to ask Director of Visual and Performing Arts and Chief Organizer of this project, Franklin Willis, to come up.
Thank you, Dr. Battle. The Every Student Known singers are Savannah Bell from Nashville School of the Arts, Corinne Bryan, J.T. Moore, Middle, Journey Butler from Warner Arts Magnet Elementary, Leslie Hammonds from Nashville School of the Arts, Jordan Harris, Hume Fogg Academic Magnet High School, Kingston Karif, Nashville School of the Arts, Araya McEwen, Nashville School of the Arts, Luca McLaughlin, J.T. Moore, Darren Sadler, a.k.a. DJ, Hume Fogg, Kinston Smith, Nashville School of the Arts, and Zoe Sobecki and Hume Fogg. Please give them a round of applause. And we also have some outstanding music educators.
One second,
yes.
Director Willis, because these are Emmy Award-winning students. So I want them to come on up front and let us give them a standing ovation for their work. Stay right there. Let them stay right there. We're not done.
Y'all stay right there. All right, and we have some outstanding music educators to thank for their work they did with the students this past summer. Bryson Finney from our Learning Technology Department, who also was here 2 weeks ago for the national recognition he received for the We Are Nashville Festival, and Dee Hammonds, who teaches music at Warner Arts Magnet Elementary. I don't know if they slid in yet. There's Bryson.
Araya. Get a picture with y'all, maybe you're in there.
I'm going to take a group picture.
All right. Why don't we, everybody, we should all do this one.
All right. 1, 2.
All right, so again, congratulations to our Emmy Award winning students who have represented our Emmy Award winning district. We're so proud of them. So again, now that song won the Emmy, but it's not the last we're going to hear of our Every Student Known project. Last week, we were going to have a big release for our new version of the song, but the weather got in our way a little bit. But it did not stop us from putting the song out into the world on YouTube and our district website because it was time for the world to hear Cada Estudiante Valorado, which is a Spanish language version of Every Student Known. So why don't we just take a moment and give a good look at the new video.
En el corazón de Tennessee hay un distrito solo para mí, trabajando lado a lado, talentos identificados. Nuestro camino es brillante, cada día, cada estudiante, cada escuela es un tesoro, con talento de oro. Cada estudiante valorado, la promesa que les damos, tantas cosas podemos ser, ten paciencia vas a ver. Cada estudiante valorado, objetivo que no dejamos, nuestro compromiso, ver en ti en Río, en ti en Río. Oh, 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 oh. En ti en Río. Cada día construimos, ganar es el objetivo. Nunca estás solo, estoy de tu lado. Vamos, no seas tímido, grandes cosas seremos, luchando juntos. Vamos a levantarnos, cada estudiante valora la promesa que les damos. Tantas cosas podemos ser, ten paciencia y vas a ver. Cada estudiante valorado, el objetivo que no dejamos, nuestro compromiso, ver en ti el brillo. Cada estudiante tantas cosas podemos ver, cada estudiante valorado, el objetivo que no dejamos, nuestro compromiso, ver en ti el brillo, en ti el brillo, en ti el brillo, en ti el brillo, en ti el brillo. Nuestro sueño tenemos que vivirlo. Independiente, no vamos a rendirnos, excediendo expectativa. Vamos con todo, usando tu talento. Todo lograremos, llegando a la cima y no nos detendremos. Con esfuerzo y fe, todo lo obtendremos. Estamos juntos en esto y no nos venceremos. Que el estudiante cuenta y es lo que queremos. La promesa que les damos, tantas cosas podemos ser, ten paciencia y vas a ver. Cada estudiante valorado, un objetivo que no dejamos, nuestro compromiso, ver en ti el brillo.
keep just holding back tears every time I watch our talented and just beautiful students. We know this is another beautiful piece of work by our students, by our committed group of students, our music educators, our community partners who gave their time and resources to ensure that our district mantra would be represented by wonderful song in a language that nearly 40% of our students speak. So, I'd like to recognize this group tonight. Again, I am going to invite up the Franklin Willis, our Director of Visual and Performing Arts, to introduce us to our student troupe who produced this great
Absolutely.
song.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Battle.
you.
The Cada Estudiante Valorado students are Yetzabel Cardona from Wright Middle School, Michelle. Yeah, y'all can
Come on
clap. Michelle Churio, her mom is here. Michelle had practice today. John Overton High School. Gabriela Flores Rodriguez, Nashville School of the Arts. Lucy Garzon, Wright Middle School. Enrique, representing for the fellas. Wright Middle School, Andres. Wright Middle School, Angel Lopez Diaz from Antioch High School, and Jason Rios from Antioch were our guitarists. They are at work this afternoon, so we accept that on their behalf. But please give a round of applause to all of these students that come forward. Group picture?
As a team.
Oh, go ahead to the next thing. Okay. And let's also give it up for the music educators and staff who were working with these students. Back in October, we began rehearsals. Hannah Marshall, who teaches music at Wright Middle School. Come on up, Miss Marshall. Mr. Rock Kennedy, who teaches music at Antioch High School. Once again, Bryson Finney for my learning technology department, and my team, the VAPA team, and me. Now, can we take a group picture?
You want everybody? Sure. Or just the board? Everybody. Everybody. So the district, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Parents. That's great.
Can we get, why don't we get, if there's any family members here, why don't we come on up as well? Any family members of the children?
Two.
Next time you get that whole presentation in Spanish. And listen, I got caught in being translated on English. Congratulations again to our Every Student Known and Cada Estudiante Valorado students and staff. We're so proud of you. Thank you for representing not only in your performance group, but really representing the 80,000 students who learn and grow and being supported in MNPS every day. Also, to our talented educators, you cannot do this one without talented students, but our talented, phenomenal, effective educators who go above and beyond and pour in every day. Thank you all so much. Thank you. And I cannot forget parents. They are dedicating so much time and support. Family members, thank you all so much. We definitely could not do it without y'all. It all started with you. So thank you. All right, so tonight we're also celebrating more than 80 athletic teams and student athletes from our 15 high schools that have won the 24-25 Academic Achievement Awards from the TSSAA for the fall semester. Each of these teams had a collective GPA of at least 3.0 for the semester. That is an impressive testament to their hard work in and out of the classroom, their determination, and their excellent time management as they competed in high school basketball, bowling, cheerleading, cross country, football, golf, soccer, volleyball, and wrestling, which means we will be doing this again at the end of the school year for our for our spring sports. I'm not going to say every team from every school, but I do want to recognize each of the high schools whose teams and student athletes have earned these academic honors, and every high school that has an athletic program is represented here. So Antioch, Cane Ridge, East Nashville, Glencliff, Hillsborough, Hume Falk, Hunters Lane, James Lawson, Maplewood, Martin Luther King, McGavick, John Overton, Pearl-Cohn, Stratford, and Whites Creek. Also want to recognize teams winning the Academic Achievement Awards. We had 6 boys basketball teams, 6 girls basketball teams, 6 boys bowling teams, 5 girls bowling teams, 5 cheerleading teams, 9 boys cross country teams, 9 girls cross country teams, 4 football teams, 6 boys golf teams, 4 girls golf teams, 6 girls soccer teams, 12 volleyball teams, 3 boys wrestling teams, and 5 girls wrestling teams. So I know that we have lots of leaders and coaches and athletic directors and principals with us. Again, I'm going to read out the school names. I want to recognize you if you are here with us this evening. If you are representing any of these schools, Antioch, Cane Ridge, East Nashville, Glencliff, Hillsborough, Hume Falk, Hunters Lane, James Lawson, Maplewood, Martin Luther King, McGavick, John Overton, Pearl-Cohn, Stratford, or Whites Creek, would you please stand so that we can acknowledge you and thank you. All right, so we would like, don't sit yet, because we need you all to come up front so we can get a picture. We don't leave without pictures around here. So come on up to the middle. We'd like to get a picture with all of you, as well as your district representatives. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Come on up, y'all. Don't be shy.
I'm just going to stand back here. So many people. Yeah, I stand back here.
Okay. Are we going to stay back here or are we going up there? Okay.
You should probably go up there.
Well,
You need a chair.
no, I want us to.
There's so many people. Okay. And get the board members to me. I believe there's so many people. I want them to be able to react. If you can squeeze on the sides, please.
All right, we ready? 1, 2, 3.
right, we are so proud of all of our student athletes for their commitment to both parts of that title, being a student and being a strong athlete. And we're proud of our teachers, coaches, principals, our athletic directors, our high school athletic director, Mark North. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you all for representing MNPS so well in competition and in the classroom. All right, so tonight we're also going to take an opportunity to recognize some outstanding employees for National Board Certification achievements in 2024. Their tremendous professional accomplishments represent the highest standard of excellence in education and student support services. There are 4 groups of employees we're going to recognize. I'll say a bit about each group's certification, and then at the end, I'll ask Michael Cass from our communications department to call everyone's name so you can come up and get a certificate from me, and then we'll take a big group photo at the end. So first, we want to celebrate 6 of our speech language therapists. These individuals receive certificates of clinical competence from the American Speech Language Hearing Association. To attain this credential, professionals must earn a graduate degree from an accredited program, pass the Praxis Speech Language Pathology exam, and successfully complete a clinical fellowship of at least 1,260 hours. All of this is beyond the basic state licensure requirements. To maintain their credentials, certificated audiologists and speech language pathologists must engage in ongoing professional development and meet ASHA's continuing education requirements. Currently, there are 80 National Board certified therapists serving students in MNPS, and tonight we'll be recognizing 6 of them for their new certification. Next, we also want to honor the district's 4 newest nationally certified psychologists. The NCSP credential is offered through the National Association of School Psychologists. Professionals must graduate from an approved program, complete a 1,200-hour supervised internship, and pass the Praxis School Psychologist exam. To maintain the credential, NCSPs must complete an additional 75 hours of continuing education every 3 years. The district now has 55 national certified school psychologists serving our students. And tonight we'll be recognizing 4 of them on their new certification. We're also going to recognize a group of nationally board certified school counselors. The National Certified Counselor credential is obtained through the National Board for Certified Counselors. NCCs earn a master's degree or higher in counseling, pass a national counseling examination, fulfill a supervised work experience, and adhere to a code of ethics upheld by the National Board. Like their colleagues here, certified school counselors must meet ongoing professional development requirements to recertify. MNPS has 50 national certified counselors. We will be congratulating 6 of them tonight on this new achievement. And last but certainly not least, we are celebrating 2 groups of National Board Certified Teachers. One group has achieved certification for the first time, and the other group has achieved maintenance of certification, all through the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards. These can be teachers, administrators, coaches, or school counselors. To become National Board Certified Teachers, educators must pass a comprehensive discipline-specific exam and submit a series of portfolio components. The portfolios include student work, video of professional practice, and extensive commentary about instructional impact. The process is rigorous, can take up to 5 years to complete. To maintain certification, teachers must submit portfolio evidence of further growth every 5 years. The impact of National Board certification is significant. Evidence shows that students of National Board certified teachers gain an average of 1 to 2 months of additional learning per year compared to peers in other classrooms. MNPS currently has 65 active nationally board certified teachers, and tonight we'll be recognizing 14 of them. 9 who successfully achieved maintenance of certification in 2024, and our 5 newest national board certified teachers, and let me just say, only 8 educators in all of Tennessee achieved national board certification in 2024, and y'all, we have 5 of them. So,
That's huge, y'all, huge.
congratulations to all of these nationally certified members of Team MNPS, and thank you all for going the extra mile or many miles in your professional development to achieve these certifications. It means a lot to your schools, your colleagues, and most importantly to the students you serve. So we've asked Michael Cass to come up to call all the names, and as he does, if you are here in the audience with us, please come up up front. In front of the board table to get your certificate, and then stay here because we want to get a big photo at the end.
Thank you, Dr. Battle. Our newest speech language therapists who have earned certificates of clinical competence are Beza Ararsa, Antioch High School.
Go, Antioch. Yes, ma'am.
Betsy Burris, Paragon Mills Elementary School. Isabel Canadeo, who serves Carter Lawrence Elementary, Rose Park Magnet Middle, and Nashville School of the Arts. McKenna Crouch from Dan Mills Elementary School. Nicole Pierce, who serves West End Middle School and the community-based transitions programs at Harris Hillman School and the Martin Center. And Taylor Walker from Haywood Elementary School. The district's newest nationally certified school psychologists are Ashley Hewitt, who serves Nashville Big Picture High School and Harpeth Valley Elementary. Kaya Lewis, who serves Old Center Elementary, Jolton Elementary, and the Academy at Old Cockrell. China Mallory, who serves Oliver Middle School and Carter Lawrence Elementary. And Pauline C. Maratea, who serves James Lawson High School and Cumberland Elementary. Our newest national board certified school counselors are from Hermitage Elementary School, Dr. Dan Bloomhart. From Cole Elementary School, Ginger Etheridge. From Charlotte Park Elementary School, Taylor Long. From Antioch High School, Katie Pressgrove. From Paragon Mills Elementary School, Lauren Sweetman. And from James Lawson High School, Sally Wilson Harmoning. And as Dr. Battle said, we have two groups of national board certified teachers to recognize tonight. The 9 teachers who have achieved maintenance of certification are from Hunters Lane High School, Dr. Sarah Brown. From Mount View Elementary School, we have 2 teachers, Laura Eady and Selena Judkins. From A.Z. Kelly Elementary School, Dr. Kiana Johnson. From Granbury Elementary School, Marlene Miller. From Julia Green Elementary School, Corey Nash. From Cockrell Elementary School, Amber Walsh. From MNPS's Exceptional Education Department, Dr. Tanoa Whitskill. And from Amqui Elementary School, Scott Wofford. And MNPS's 4 newest National Board Certified teachers are from Martin Luther King Academic Magnet High School, Dr. Daniel T. Ajemong. From East Nashville Magnet High School, Shelby Crandall. We have 2 teachers from Charlotte Park Elementary School, Anna Lee McLean and Leslie Osborne. And from John Overton High School, Michael Pence. I want to do a group photo.
Chair player, not in the middle of the room. I love it. So just move a couple forward, balance it out. There we go. National.
All right. Again, congratulations to everyone we recognize tonight for your phenomenal accomplishments. It is such a huge win to have you all a part of Team MNPS. Congratulations. So as I close out, in the same sentiments as Board Member Mays earlier, I also want to take a quick mention of something special that happened earlier today at Antioch High School. Many of you know that Jelly Roll once attended Antioch, and he wanted to do something to help after the tragedy there a month ago. So today, not only did he purchase lunch for every student from Chick-fil-A, and Uncle Bud's and Daddy's Dogs. But he also came to the school for a couple of hours to greet students and staff at lunchtime and to talk to some of them privately. He supported both our students and our staff at Antioch. Jelly Roll also has been very generous with the families of the victims at Antioch. We're extremely grateful for everything Jelly Roll has done to support our Antioch family, and we just appreciate the care and concern he always shows to give back to the community he came from. And again, a special thank you to Board Member Mays for also being there to support the students and the staff. That will conclude our awards and recognitions for this evening. Thank you so much, Chair Player and board members, for your support.
Thank you. That was a lovely awards and recognition session. It's for everyone who achieved from the magnet schools to the Every Student Known, the lovely Emmy. And I was like, I remember when Dr. Battle showed us the picture, I was like, who would have thunk that we would say we like to thank the Academy as an organization district? So that's a really awesome thing. And then as student athletes, I know many of us on this board were student athletes when we were in high school. And so to see that, to be able to excel in both sessions, it's really an honor. And we're really excited about that. And then with our board certified national board certified employees, thank you for your hard work. We know it's not an easy process, but the reason we have the growth and achievement is because we have top-notch, high-quality teachers, and we really thank you for that. And to the school psychologists that do the hard work every day of making sure our children are or their needs are met and their supports are met is also very important. So thank you. Well, we'll now move on to director's report. And so I'll give it back to Dr. Battle to talk about an assessment update.
All right, thank you, Chair Player and board members again. Tonight, I want to take a moment to reflect on the progress we've made as a district and the work ahead as we continue to build that success. Our commitment to using data-driven strategies to support student achievement remains steadfast, and I'm proud to share some of the latest insights from our assessments and academic recovery efforts. As we've seen in our winter screening results, our students are making meaningful progress, particularly in mathematics, where we continue to meet growth targets across all student groups. We also recognize areas where additional support is needed, particularly in early literacy, and we remain focused on strengthening interventions to ensure every student has the foundation they need for long-term success. We're also in our third year of administering standards-aligned benchmark assessments. Our students are learning impressive content, and the reporting features allows our educators to go deeply into identifying areas where our students need additional supports in order to achieve at higher levels. Our work does not happen in isolation. It is the result of strong collaboration between our educators, school leaders, families, and community partners who are dedicated to supporting student learning. The data we will review tonight is more than just numbers. It represents real students, real progress, and real opportunities to refine our approach to better serve them. At this time, I'd like to welcome up Dr. Tina Stinson, our Executive Director of Research Assessment and Evaluation, and after her, Dr. David Williams, our Deputy Chief of Academics, who will provide a deeper dive into the latest assessment results and share how we're using this information to drive continuous improvement. Dr. Stinson.
Thank you, Dr. Battle, Madam Chair, board members. Before I get started, I just have to share that one of the teachers who was just recognized was my son's math teacher. My son is now a math major and a sophomore in college, and he loved that teacher so much that at that time he wanted to name his first kid after that teacher. So they make a difference, and I just love, I was texting him, your teacher's up there. With that, I will get to our assessment update. Before I get started, I just wanted to say that both Dr. Williams and I will be doing some level setting since we have some new school board members on the types of district assessments and some of the measures we use. This first slide is in that vein, and it displays the types of district assessments we have. The first that we'll talk about are our screeners. These are typically skills-based screeners, such as early reading, CBM math, several others. They're used for academic and dyslexia screening. The second type that I'm going to talk about are our growth measures. They're based on universal reading and math standards. We use A reading and A math to measure that through the year. And the achievement is our standards-based benchmarks that Dr. Williams will be talking about. And we have these to measure whether students are mastering the standards in the quarter after which they are given. And they help answer these questions. One, especially the top two, are where is the additional support needed? How are we doing in terms of growth? And are we getting there in terms of achievement? So here are some high-level remarks on the screening assessment results for A reading and A math. The district multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS, if you hear me using that acronym, winter assessment window was in early January through the end of January, and we screened just over 38,000 students in grades 2 through 9 with the adaptive FastBridge reading and math assessments, and our participation rate was really high despite some disruptions at 96.3%. As has been the case for the last couple of years, district math scores on the assessments were higher than reading scores in grades 2 through 9, and we will get into that a little bit. And when compared to results from fall of 2024, the percentage of students in the lowest 2 national quintiles increased in ELA, but were steady in math, and we will unpack this a little bit. The district is on track to meet its growth goals, its growth-focused outcome for math and ELA. And every student group met the winter growth targets for math, and several also met for reading. And we will go into that in some detail, but not too much detail. There are some variables, some context I want to talk about with the screening process with A reading and A math, but particularly A reading. And I talked to you about this last year at this time, those of you who were here. After noticing some inconsistencies in the winter screening data last year, the team I lead, the RAE team, Research Assessment and Evaluation, has been in pretty frequent communication with the Renaissance team. That's the vendor that gives us our assessments. And we will soon receive some data with seasonal norms that help us adjust the data a little bit from what you're seeing to better interpret school and district performance. So what I mean by seasonal norms, as opposed to the norms I'm going to talk about, are the national norms were set in the year 2019, both how are students doing across the nation and how are they growing across the nation in 2019. Things have changed since then. So I need to know, in order to interpret these data properly, how students are actually doing this year. And so that is what we have requested and we hope to receive soon. We know that last year they made some adjustments to the reading screener that probably had some impact. And we have several large outliers, both schools and students, as was the case last year for fall to winter and fall to spring. Particularly higher achieving students in schools are outliers that affect the rest of the data. So with all of that, let's get into the data. Here are our FastBridge 24-25 reading quintiles for fall and winter. As a reminder, a quintile is simply a percentile put into one of 5 slots. The first one being the 1st to 20th percentile. 20th percentile means 20% of students are scoring below you. 21st to 40th, 40th to 60th, and so on. So in a normal school year nationally, 20% of students are in each category nationally. So you see fall in the gold and winter in the blue-green. And you can see that our bottom 2 quintiles increased slightly. This is the direction we do not want to go. This is going, students falling a little bit. And our high average and high students also fell a little bit. But I believe this to be part of the data issue that I'm discussing, which I will talk about a little more in a second. And you can see it even more clearly here, though the MNPS median percentile is up 1 point from winter 23-24. So when I stood before you last February, we're up a little bit, but we're down 4 points from fall, which we are working to unpack and understand with those seasonal norms. So the median is simply the percentage of students, it's the middle of the distribution where 50% of students are above you, 50% are below you. So, 50 is kind of the exact average, though the 24 that we're seeing here is squarely in the average range. So you can see we're at 24 for all students. I won't read each of these to you, but I will leave it up for you for a minute to see how we are doing with our larger student groups. I did leave out Hawaiian Pacific Islander and Native American Indian simply because there's very few students in those student groups. And now we get to growth. This is sort of an interim measure of whether we're on track to meet our focused outcome for growth, which is percentage of students maintaining or improving their percentile from fall to spring. That's our focused outcome. This is our middle of the year check on that pulse, and you can see that we're on track to meet it for all students with 51.5% of students maintaining or improving their percentile. And that simply means if I'm at the 50th percentile and I stay at the 50th percentile, I've met that, I'm making average growth. If I go from 50th to 60th, I'm like accelerating growth. If I go from 50th to 40th, I'm losing a little ground. Doesn't mean I'm not growing, just means I'm not growing as fast. So you can see we're on track to meet that for our all student group. And several of our student groups are also, we don't use them as focused outcomes, but we do monitor how our students are doing. And you can see that several of our student groups are in fact on the trajectory to meet that. Surprisingly, our highest our biggest groups like Black, White, Asian are not, and not ED is lower than ED. So this indicates that our lower starting score students are growing a little more than our, than ED, which tends to score a little lower. Okay, switching from reading to math. Again, this is grades 2 through 9. These are the quintiles, the 5 quintiles. You can see this is, does anybody have a tissue? This is very stable from fall to winter, and actually up a tiny bit. Thank you. And I have chronic allergies, which are like deciding that this is the appropriate time to hit me. So you can see that we did have a slight decrease in the bottom 2 quintiles, which is exactly what we want to see. We did have more students in the quintile 3 than we had before, and just a small percentage point difference from fall to winter in the high average and high performing groups. And this is the achievement. As I said, we use a median national percentile. Again, we're up 1 from winter 23-24 and stable from fall. So we're not seeing that drop that we saw in reading. And you can see, as I noted early, our national median percentile is a little higher for all students in math. And I will not read each of these to you, but you can see how our student groups are doing. And before I turn it over to Dr. Williams, I have this one last slide, which is our winter A math growth by student group. Again, this is the percentage of students maintaining or improving their percentile from fall to winter, and you can see that we're well on track to meeting this goal for from fall to spring. And each student group is also meeting this, this aspirational target. And with this, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. David Williams to talk about benchmark assessments.
All right, thank you, Dr. Simpson. Good evening, board members, Dr. Battle. I'm certainly pleased to have the opportunity to share with you some information regarding our most recent benchmark administration, which was actually last semester at the end of second quarter, December 6th through the 20th. And I'm going to start with a few reminders about our benchmark assessments and to level set for any new board members, but also to serve as a reminder for others. The table here shows in which grades and subjects we administer our benchmark assessments. So you can see for English language arts, we administer in elementary schools grades 3 through 5, middle school grades 6 through 8, and at the high school level, English 1 and English 2. In math, we administer in elementary grades 3 through 5, middle school 6 through 8, and at the high school level, integrated math 1, 2, and then 3. Science, grades 3 through 5, 6 through 8, and then the high school is biology. In social studies, no test at elementary school. We begin that in middle school grades 6 through 8, and then at the high school level, U.S. history. A few other notes. Again, these are administered at the end of each quarter, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. They're designed to take approximately 45 minutes, give or take, of course, depending on the student. They are aligned to the MNPS scope and sequence. Again, they're standards-based. These are custom developed with our partners at Renaissance and our content teams. They are intended to mimic the rigor, expectations, alignment to the standards, and the thinking that students will experience on TCAP, as well as the item types, and I'll certainly address that as I go through the presentation. And these are all delivered online as well through our assessment portal. I have selected a few grades and content areas just to walk through, showcase some of the impressive things that our students are learning, where they're excelling, and where they have experienced some challenges. So first, in grade 3 ELA, some of the successes that our students demonstrated was that they were able to describe characters in a story and explain how these actions contribute to the sequence of events in the story, determine the meaning of unknown words or phrases within a text, and then distinguish the literal from figurative language. Where they saw some challenges was using text features to locate information to a relevant topic. And they also were challenged with determining the central idea of a text and then how that is supported and conveyed through key details. In grade 5 ELA, successes determine the meaning of words or phrases as they're used in a text. And again, you'll see this standard spiral up through the grades. The emphasis here is on similes and metaphors. Another success in 5th grade ELA was to compare and contrast 2 or more setting, characters, or events drawing on key details in a text. Some challenges, again, similar to grade 3, determining the central idea of the text, how it's supported by key details, and then also providing a summary of the text. Compare and contrast the overall structure of events, ideas, concepts, and information, and this is where the rigor comes in, looking at 2 or more texts. So comparing and contrasting those elements within 2 or more texts. In 5th grade math, some successes that we saw were representing mathematical and real-world problems by graphing points in the first quadrant of the coordinate plane and then interpreting those coordinate or XY values of points within the context of the problem. Also, 5th grade, really good, important success was finding the area of a rectangle when the side lengths are fractions, and understanding that the area is given when you tile it with appropriate unit squares of the appropriate fractional side lengths. Some challenges were to solve contextual or word problems that involve addition and subtraction of fractions, and I think everyone remembers 5th grade being hard when now I have to deal with unlike denominators. So that was certainly a challenge. And then also solving real world problems that involve multiplication of fractions and mixed numbers. Moving into 7th grade math, again, my favorite. Applying properties of operations, which are commutative, distributive, associative, as strategies to add and subtract rational numbers. Determining if 2 quantities are in a proportional relationship. Certainly you could do that by testing the equivalent ratios in a table or looking at the graph in the coordinate plane and understanding that that graph will go through the origin. Some challenges, understanding that integers can be divided, provided that the divisor, the number on the bottom, is not 0, and that every quotient of integers is a rational number. And then another challenge was using proportional relationships to solve ratio and percent multi-step problems. Moving into integrated math 1, some successes were creating equations or inequalities in one variable and using those to solve problems. Using function notation. So if there's a bivariate association, looking at the domain and range and evaluating the function for inputs of that domain. Some challenges were relating the domain of a function to its graph in the context of the function that it models. So given the graph, it describes a real-world problem, models a real-world problem. what does the domain mean in context of that problem? And then also for a function that models the relationship between two quantities, interpret key features of the graph and tables in terms of the quantities. And what we're getting at here is, of course, you're looking at graphs, tables, contextual relationship, and trying to make sense of the key features within that context. In English 2, successes determine the meaning of words or phrases. So again, this is carried all the way through, that we've seen some success that our students have had. Of course, the added complexity here is including figurative and connotative language at the English 2 level. One thing that I was really pleased to see is that our students had success in demonstrating command of the conventions of standard English, because that has been something that's been a focus area for our ACT. Challenges, determining the theme or central idea of a text, and then providing an objective or critical summary. And finally, challenge, analyze how an author's choice concerning the text structure, plot structure, or time manipulation within the narrative can add to the story to create mystery, tension, or suspense or surprise. So I told you I wanted to talk a little bit more about problem types, and I'll slow down here a little bit because certainly this is something that has come up on the board floor, and I want to be sure I address it. Non-traditional item types, and when I say traditional, it's the multiple choice. You have the question, 4 choices, there's 1 correct answer. But they're inherently more challenging, so it's not surprising that when we have non-traditional item types, they add that layer of cognitive complexity, and they're more commonly missed. But I want to unpack these just a little bit so we can also understand more about the scoring logic and also what insights our educators have. So it's not just about that the student get the point or the question right or wrong. There's additional information that I think are important to understand. So the first problem type I want to talk about is multi-select problems. They look a lot like a multiple choice problem, but there are typically 5, maybe 6 answer choices. And there's more than one correct answer choice. So as an example, for a math example, the question might be, which of the following fractions are equivalent to 1/2? And then you would see a series of other fractions like 2/4, 3/5, 4/6, 4/8, and 5/10. Out of that list of answer choices I read, there are 3 correct answers, okay? But here's where it gets interesting. The student has to get all 3 correct answers selected and only those 3 correct answers. So if they got 2 of the 3, they don't get the score point. If they got all 3 and selected an incorrect one, they don't get the score point. So the reason I want to emphasize this is that it will show up as an incorrect answer if they don't get those 3 and exactly those 3. But that doesn't mean that there's still not value in looking at, well, did the student get 2 and not the 3rd, right? So now I have to talk about perseverance, or did you make sure you look through all the problems? But it's not that the student doesn't understand equivalent fractions necessarily, right? So the reason that's important is that when we look in the portal and we can analyze exactly, I can see exactly the answer choices every student clicked on in every single answer. So that gives me a real powerful insight into what does the student know. Was the challenge really the way the problem was represented, the item type, or is there some content issue or some combination? So I wanted to walk through that. The next type is evidence-based selective response. These will show up in ELA assessments. They're EBSR. They're 2-part questions. There's a part A and there's a part B. And part B follows exactly from part A. These questions are worth 2 points. Here's the key. You cannot get part B correct if you don't get part A correct. So if you miss part A, you're automatically 0 out of 2. Okay, so an example might be, which of the following is the central idea of the text? And then that's part A, and there's a multiple choice. Part B may say, which line from the text provide evidence that that was the central idea in part A? And so again, there's a little bit of complexity with the item type, but just because a student, missed a problem, part A, part B, I can dig into further see how did the student respond to this and what is actually the challenge? Is it a content challenge? Is it because it's 2-part and we've got to make sure we're thoughtful on both parts and so forth. So I wanted to talk about that. Finally, in middle and high school, this is called TEI, or Technology Enhanced Items. They're online. So the assessment designers are able to take advantage of the technology that's for them online, and they can do things like drag and drop, grid, drop down, graphing, moving things around. So you may have a sentence, and it'll have a few drop downs, and it'll say, make sure you're choosing the appropriate tense of the verbs all along the way. And there may be 2 or 3 drop downs within a longer sentence to make sure all the tenses are aligned. Well, you've got to get all 3 correct to get that score point. Again, I can see how students are answering this question. So it's not a matter of did they get the question right or wrong. The portal allows further analysis to understand, is it a content issue? Is it the question type? Is it a combination? Is it the way the language was presented and the problem? But I really like how our portal allows insights into these questions to further understand what's presenting the challenge or the barrier to student success. So next steps, actually our Q3 window opened today, February 25th, and it closes next Thursday, March 6th. So the rest of this week and then on into next week to administer our benchmarks ahead of spring break. Practice tests are available. They're all the way through the window, and when we talk about these practice items, they're there for the teachers to walk through. The students can get online, make sure that everything's launching appropriately, they're signed in correctly, and they can practice these item types with the support of their teachers. Benchmark and screening data is loaded into our school dashboard, our data warehouse, and then our personalized student dashboards for parents and families. And that usually takes place a few weeks after the window's closed, so we can pull down the data, clean it, analyze it, upload it, and make sure it's available for both our internal and external stakeholders. Excuse me. And then finally, our schools use this data to identify student problems of practice and then make instructional adaptations. I would like to share that we were at a school today. The principal was really excited about showcasing all the ways that they use data to inform how they are scaffolding, how they're provided differentiated supports for each individual student based on both the screening data that Dr. Sins talked about, benchmark data, really digging into that, pulling that into the planning so that they're providing the appropriate supports during core instruction, as well as PLT. So really fascinating all the wonderful ways our schools are using these data and information to really serve our students well. And then finally, board support. How can the board support continue to support the use? What Dr. Sins and I described is something we've been doing for 3 years, where we're thoughtfully staggering the screening as the growth measures she described, as well as the achievement measures, making sure those are thoughtfully staggered across the year, but realizing both are important. Growth's important, achievement's important. Also continue to be a champion for our effective teachers, the principals and school communities, as they use these assessment systems and their data to support students. And then finally, advocate for continued transparency and accountability systems utilized by the state and the nation. And so with that, Dr. Battle, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stinson and Dr. Williams. That'll conclude our report. Chair Blair, I'll turn it over to you.
Quick technical question. The assessments are electronic, correct? They're all electronic? Okay. Questions, comments from anyone? Member Tyler?
Yeah, I'm pleased to hear that we are making strides in areas that we have focused on as far as like ACT prep and that kind of stuff. That's always good to hear because that's something that directly impacts each student's future choices. I was concerned to see the same challenges follow in English all the way through to high school. I know that part of this is putting in place a plan for, okay, we know where we have holes, so how are we going to support? I assume that that is happening because that's what you do. I just would love to give you guys the opportunity to speak about that a little bit.
Dr. Williams.
Yeah, certainly. I was intentional in including those because I wanted to do a couple things. Be very transparent where we know that there are challenges, but also see that there is a clear articulation across the ELA standards and how they just increase with sophistication across the year. So how are we supporting? Well, using this data, supporting our schools as they use this data to inform their planning and their instruction, their PLT, of course, lots of supports that we can provide there. There are benchmark analysis protocols that our schools can use to figure out what do they need to tighten up. We've encouraged them to be laser focused on both the content and the instructional strategies and planning, and then expect to see that in the classroom. I think another thing for our C&I team and our coaches is to really think about how are we leveraging the vertical articulation and the deepening of that understanding of that content in our coaching and our content days. So we're all in a position of learning what is this content, what are the expectations, and then how we're providing supports for teachers back at our schools to make sure that that's a reality.
Okay. Sorry, my son texted me in the middle of that. He thought I was picking him up. I am not. I got a little distracted.
I was like, should I be?
Not this time. Apologize.
Yeah. The joys of being a parent while you're an elected official.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, so one of the things that I mean, I like to hear, obviously, there's a plan. There was a lot of kind of, we're going to look at this and then we're going to respond to it, which is clearly what we want you to do. But I think the thing that concerns me the most about it is a lot of the idea of like finding what the central idea of a text is and explaining how it's supported and finding the theme. A lot of those can be really abstract thoughts, ideas. So it's not necessarily black and white, easy answer. And that is something that requires a lot more in-depth critical thinking. And so in general, I would love to hear a little bit more about like, I mean, how are we building in time for our students to not just have more test prep, but to have the ability to have those kinds of like Socratic discussions where they're having that critical thinking stretched and tested. And I mean, that's probably embedded in what you were saying. That's how you're going to respond. But I mean, I think that one of the things we really want our kids to be able to do is not just be able to pick a multiple choice answer, but we want them to actually understand it so that they can extrapolate their thoughts moving forward. And I think critical thinking is such a huge role in that particular aspect of it. So just, I mean, I guess I assume we would want to have opportunities for critical thinking discussions in just our regular gen ed classrooms, but also in pulling out for PLT, we could do that as well. I didn't know if there were specific plans to address that in particular.
Go ahead.
So one thing we are working on, certainly right now, and we do have some schools that are sort of the early adopters, is this idea of instructional coherence. And it's been sort of a national thing, but how is what we're doing in Tier 1 connected to any additional time, whether it's in accelerating scholars or PLT interventions, that it's connected so that I'm not learning about, say, central idea in Tier 1, and then I'm moving on to something completely different in my PLT or my tutoring. So that's a larger strategy that we're working on so that students have multiple times in multiple forms, right? Whether I'm part of a whole group discussion, I'm in a turn and talk in my core class, or I'm part of a small group in my PLT, for example, that I'm engaged in the same type of thinking, so I continue to develop those skills. So that's a larger strategy. But as you say, our curricula do allow for some of that Socratic seminar. Those are some specific things. We're always working to look at accountable talk, so that as a student offers an idea of a message, somebody's building onto that, agreeing, disagreeing, and that kind of thing, to continue to build in layers of that type of thinking that you described, certainly.
Yeah, and I think, the intentionality of calling it out that way, what it does help us to accomplish as we're supporting our schools, as Dr. Williams mentioned, we're just having this conversation today as we're visiting schools. It helps us really begin to articulate like how these standards and these objectives build on top of one another. So it's actually helpful, although it's the area we've got to focus in, to be able to say this is why it's important to get this at the foundational level, because it becomes more complex, right, in demand and requirement and rigor as students move through their educational experience. And so when you think about it from a coaching lens and from a principal support lens, it's good then to be able to understand, okay. So this is why this is like the deep understanding about what we're asking for today and how that leads to further learning. When you think about internalizing that, then it gives our educators a better kind of attempt at connecting the learning along the way. And so you don't have this isolation. So it helps you really see that, although it's an area we have to work in. I'm really excited about, because we're seeing that trend, how we go back to our professional learning spaces, how we go back to collaborative planning, how we support our ILTs to begin to get at that.
Okay, that's helpful. And also, I just want to, say I really appreciate this kind of open transparency that every time you've come, not just today, but every time you guys come and talk about, you include successes, but you also include the challenges. And I think that's extremely important for us as board members and also for the public as a whole to know that we're recognizing when we see holes and that we're recognizing that there are areas that we could do better in. And the only way we can do better in them is to identify them and then figure out how to put a better focus on them. So I think as long as we are continuing to be honest and transparent about where we are seeing struggles, that's how we can address them. So it's good to hear some of this. And, obviously we're going to be keeping an eye to hopefully how are we able to better support and how are we able to provide that for our teachers so that they can provide it for their students. Thank you.
Member Elrod and then Member Block.
Thank you. I think to Member Tyler's statement, there's obviously places that we need to work on, not just in one grade band, but we can see that those are the effects throughout those grade bands, particularly in the abstract conversations. And of course, those are important for critical thinking skills, but they also build upon each other, like what Dr. Battle was saying. So I appreciate that insight. I know that one of the answers we were given was that there was a I think it had a name, and I'm trying to see if I missed that name or if it was just we're working on a strategy. Is there something that we're specifically doing? Was there a name for the strategy that we were using on how to use abstract thoughts and abstract concepts and trying to help students figure out what ways to answer those in the multiple different question types?
I see. Okay. So the certainly leveraging our tier one materials, and that's because I think the question was around some of the pedagogical strategies that will allow students to critically think, share their ideas with each other, engage in Socratic seminars, small group discussions, and that's certainly part of all of our curricula, K-12, ELA, and math as well. I was also referring to this idea that a student who goes from, say, their core one ELA class to their core one math class, and they may go to an intervention, maybe they're being pulled for something else, those should be connected. So the experience that the student has across the school day, I shouldn't feel like I'm just jumping around from this to this to this, and it's disjointed and disconnected. So we're working how we can better leverage our tier one materials, not just in the tier one classroom, but in additional supplemental ways, so that students can get the reinforcement that they need to be more successful in that tier one class. So it's called instructional coherence, and it's something that we've been working on for a year. And we're trying to roll it out piece by piece, but the broad idea is the kid has a seamless experience across the school day with what they're learning.
Sure. I mean, that would be ideal
Right.
in so many ways.
Yes, ma'am.
But particularly for obviously success in answering questions and not just, of course, standardized testing. You gave some great examples of the different type of test questions and frankly, how they're tricky. And you could see that there was a response from several of us here on the board. There was definitely some responses from people out in the audience of that's very hard. Can you explain to us why those types of questions, since they are created with, we are creating them along with our partner, with the company that helps us, Renaissance, correct?
Right.
Why are those types of questions chosen? How do we decide those? Is there a certain percentage of those types of questions? Can you give us some insight of why it is tricky like that?
And Dr. Williams, before you answer this specifically, you also alluded to something else. When we're saying we're seeing some challenges or some opportunities that we can grow here, it doesn't always reflect that students actually can't do that, right? So part of this is, do they have the command of the content and what's being demanded of them? And then there's this question. Right. So we're also trying to understand, is it that, this was a multi-select? Was this a drag and drop? Like, we've got to also determine, is this just a test function challenge as opposed to content command? Yes.
Right.
And so that's right. So I just wanted to acknowledge this since you included that in your next question.
Yeah, sure. And so there's lots of information and resources that State Department provides with respect to, say, middle school science. How is this test designed with respect to things like item types, number of questions, length of time, et cetera. So they kind of describe what the experience will be like. The majority of questions on any test, K through 12, is going to be multiple choice. So we know that. We also know that there are some of these other item types. And when I say a few other, and we're talking about benchmarks, we may be looking at anywhere from 12 to 18 questions because of that 45-minute limit. So of the 12 to 18 questions, it may just be 2 or 3 that are reflective of these item types. Now, when you look at a full TCAP, it's still about that same percentage, right? But they'll see more than 2 or 3, right? Because now I'm on a full test with multiple parts. So we follow, again, sort of the description that the State Department provides us, so we can mimic that just so kids have that experience as much as possible, what they're expected to, as Dr. Battle said, I need to know the content, but I've also got to be able to respond to the question the way it's asked successfully to earn the full credit.
Sure, because I would think that the quick judgment that could be had is, why are we asking it in a tricky way if we're not sure they understand the content? But they have to still be tested in that way because that's how they're going to be tested when they are outside of our own testing formats through the TCAP or what have you. So when we go through our own benchmarks and we notice maybe there's a particular student that has a trend of not answering it completely fully in some way, is there a way for our portal to flag that student? Does it do that for us? So when parents see that on the dashboard or when teachers are looking at it in the portal, is there a way that that parent or teacher is notified that this is a trend and something that we need to work with them on?
In the family portal, that does not exist. That's certainly some very detailed, nuanced information that would be included. I certainly think it's appropriate to, correspondence, home, parent-teacher conference. That information could certainly be shared. It's not something, of course, that we would hide, but it's not something that we have planned to include in the portal. Like I said, because it's just such detailed, nuanced information. But I do want to clarify, if I may, that doing the analysis that I did, I may look at the most commonly missed or most commonly successfully responded to questions. And typically you'll have more than one question, ideally 3 or 4, that are on the same standard, on the same content, the same idea. Mm-hmm. So then I can go in and see, did they miss the one that had this non-traditional item type and they got the other 3 correct with the multiple choice? Right. Then maybe it's the item type issue. But I certainly have seen some where that didn't matter, right? Whether the item type was different or not, they scored at the same level of success. So that's why I was saying you have to go a little bit deeper than just looking at the item type. And it's not intended to be tricky. It is tricky because it's certainly difficult, but it's intended to assess students in ways that really can get at what they truly understand. And that's certainly the intent.
I'm not, I don't want to imply that we're tricking our students. We're testing them for mastery and to make sure that they're doing their best. And so I appreciate that it's asked in several different ways. I understand how that benefits them, but I also recognize how that can be confusing. And, want to make sure that we're clear on why that's being done, since we're also being so clear on some of the other challenges that we have. Outside of that, I don't believe I have any other questions, so I will pass on.
Member O'Hara Block.
Thank you all for all of the really detailed information that you always give us in this report. Dr. Stinson, I was looking back at some data from prior years, and you included the data from prior years. It feels, correct me if I'm wrong, but like we're in a pretty similar place overall to where we have been at this same time of year in prior years. And should that say to me that maybe that's a good indication that we're on track to hopefully continue to improve overall? I know that's a statement that nobody wants to hear me say, but that's the question I have. Does that make sense? I know you're looking at Dr. Battle for how she wants to have.
Well, I'm taking it that way. We are a percentile, a point above where we were last year in both cases, just in both reading and math, despite the reading issue that I mentioned going down from fall. And I will say that at Renaissance, they showed nationally a fall from fall to spring, which does represent what they saw on the NAEP. But it does not represent our district. Right? So, though these are falling nationally and in our district from fall to winter, from fall to spring, we're not we did not see that pattern. We had both strong TVOS and, the recovery scorecard was very, very strong relative to the state, and the state was pretty good relative to the nation. So I feel like we're in a good place. But,
Yeah. Thank you. That's helpful. And then as my colleagues were asking questions of Dr. Williams as well and Dr. Battle, one of the things that was playing through the back of my head, and then Dr. Battle said this, was ILT visits that you guys are doing, like all of the systemization that you're talking about and you've repeatedly talked about, everything that you're playing through that same system and same playbook, and that gives me some level of comfort as well that the results that we're seeing are positive. Of course, we all also want every single one of those groups of students to be to be all the way over to the right of those charts, but progress is progress, and I'm glad to see it. So thank you.
thank you.
Vice Chair Nawab Kinney.
Thank you both for the detailed information and the display of data that you have. I just want to say that I really appreciate the focus also, in addition to Board Member Block, around the instructional coherence that you're trying to create among tiers, because oftentimes there have been cases where there's a disconnect between the additional support and the core instruction. And so just really appreciating the work being done around creating that seamless connection between the support that students are needing in order to enhance their Tier 1 instruction. So I really appreciate that. Second thing that I just want to mention off the cuff, when it comes to TCAP testing and what we're aiming for, in light of knowing that our standards are the most rigorous in the nation, not just here, but in the nation. Not too long ago, I was part of a group of adults who took a portion of the third grade ELA TCAP who did not do well. So out of the group, about 50% did not pass the ELA TCAP, but it also gave them an opportunity to see how students are being tested, how students are being tested, and gave them further insight into some of the challenges that we face around what assessments look like and what we're screening for when it comes to that. And that level of inference that we are expecting students at all levels, especially at third grade, puts a lot into perspective on what we asking students that many adults have a hard time doing so. So thank you for your continued work in this from our teachers and support staff all the way up. I appreciate it.
Member Tyler.
I had a quick follow-up about the instructional coherence. So obviously, if you are in Tier 1 and let's say you're learning about fractions and you're struggling, it really makes sense that you're also hitting fractions in your PLT. It makes sense that that's what you're doing across the way. But how does instructional coherence work when you have a student who is significantly behind and they need more foundational support before they can even approach the topic that was in their Tier 1? So how does it work at that point when it is real serious?
Yeah, so instructional coherence is really defined for students who are at that Tier 1 remediation and reinforcement place. If a student has skill gaps, and that's the barrier that's preventing them from accessing core, that's what needs to show up, be shored up first. So while the coherence really applies to Tier 1 and how to leverage more Tier 1, if I'm a student who is at high risk according to the screening and does have significant skill gaps, that's where the work needs to happen before the student's able to move forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that child is, so they would be like, that would be a tier 3
Would
student.
be a tier 3
Yeah.
student.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And we generally refer to the placement that the student
Yeah, yeah.
has based on their needs. So if a student is placed in tier 3, it's because there's been an identified skill that needs to be worked through.
Okay. Yes, that's absolutely
Great.
correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting me on that. All right. That's important, and I appreciate that insight.
Board Member Fain.
I have more of a statement than a question. Thank you all again for all the work that you're doing. One of the schools in my district, John Early, received a congratulations because they had the highest growth in reading and math. And I think that is a big part of not only like the support that we have from our community partners. I know that it's a big push on behalf of Vanderbilt in the tutoring program and mentorship that they're providing, but also just being able to see those numbers and know where we need to focus on. So again, this is more just a thank you, and we are trending in the right projection based on the data that Member O'Block was saying. And so I just want you all to know that that is appreciated. O'Hara Block. I do like O'Block too.
Argued for O'Block with my
husband. But you get what I was saying. My bad, Aaron. But yes, I just want to, thank you all and let you know that your projection is probably right. I'm a data person too, so I'm like, okay, we are trending in the right direction. And this is a school that was once like in your tier 3, tier 4, right? And several other factors that came into place, but yet they are improving. So good job. Kudos to y'all. And of course, staff and community support as well.
Any more comments or questions? All right, thank you, Dr. Stinson and Dr. Williams. We appreciate you. We will now move on to public participation. Would Dr. Pendergrass like to come up for public participation?
I'm the only one? Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Battle. I am Dr. Paula Pendergrass, the current president of the Metropolitan Nashville Education Association. I stand before you today to advocate for two important budget items that would not only support our educators, but also secure the continued success of our students: a cost of living adjustment and longevity pay for our educators. We are grateful that a cost of living adjustment is already included in the continuity operational budget, as it is important to ensure all employees can meet basic living standards without struggling against rising daily expenses. Equally important is the need for longevity pay or a similar structure. Feedback from surveys conducted with both early career educators, 1 through 6 years of experience, and veteran educators, 7+ years, highlighted how crucial experience is to our education system. Early career educators, like pre-K teacher here, Sheila Hubbard, have emphasized that veteran teachers are the backbone of our schools, bringing invaluable knowledge, mentorship, and stability to our classrooms. Currently, Brantley here, a high school music teacher with 16 years of experience, pointing out that longevity pay rewards dedication and provides a meaningful incentive for experienced educators to remain in the profession rather than exploring other career paths. These requests are not simply about increasing pay. They reflect a commitment to recognizing the work of educators like Sheila and Carly. By incorporating longevity pay into the continuity of operational budget, we can demonstrate that we truly value the hard work, dedication, and expertise of those who teach, inspire, and shape the future of our students. Let us stand together to ensure educators are compensated for their unwavering commitment to MNPS and their indispensable role in shaping the future of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to governance issues. I will entertain a motion for the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved by Vice Chair Kinney. Is there a second? Second by Member Mays. All in favor, raise your hand. It is unanimous, 8-0. It passes. Now we move on to Director's Report. First, we'll have Member O'Hara. Sorry, Director's Evaluation Committee, Board Reports, Director's Evaluation Committee. First, first we'll have Member O'Hara Block, and then we'll have Member Mays.
So this afternoon, prior to our board meeting, we had our semi-annual review of Dr. Battle's evaluation. And so we do this, as semi-annual would indicate, twice a year. So we just did our review for quarter one and quarter two, and folks are welcome to watch that online, where all of the Metro Nashville News Network recordings are, and see what we looked at. But we look at every time at whatever student outcomes related results are available at the time. We're also taking a look at programmatic issues and questions. We're highlighting things for Dr. Battle that we are interested in, and Dr. Battle is highlighting things for the board that may come up in these meetings, and also may not, but all of those things are available in a PowerPoint and in a discussion that we had as a board earlier. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Mays.
Thank you. I just wanted to share a couple of things that I forgot to share at the top when we had our announcements. It is that time of year again, board members, to start looking at our next student board member. And applications will be open next week, and the deadline to apply will be April 30th, 5 p.m. on April 30th. So I will be reaching out to all of you to share this information in your districts so that we can get our next student board member, as our beloved Christine Tran will be graduating in May. Just as a reminder, this will be our incoming junior board member, who will be a rising junior next year. So again, that deadline is going to be April 30th, 5 p.m. April 30th, to receive applications. And I will be looking at all of you to help in that decision process. And just one other thing that I wanted to share, that we have a date on the calendar for the MNPS Day on the Hill. It will be March 18th. And we will be getting more detailed information about that in the coming week. So please mark your calendars and share that information in your constituency basis, so that if we have any parents who are interested in joining us for the Day on the Hill, March 18th will be the day, and we will share more information about that soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Be no further business. This meeting's adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.